All right, a little midnight stamping here. Actually, it's almost 12:30 a.m. And I have been busy doing some things, but I thought I would get around to doing a Creature of the Black Lagoon. I think that was what it was called, Creature of the Black Lagoon. I don't think it was Monster of the Black Lagoon, right? As far as the movie goes. So this is a stamp by Ken Brown Stamps. I won't even look for it if I were you. 1984. So Ken Brown Stamps, since I've been around the stamping industry in the late 80s, his stamps were all being made by Rubber Stamps of America. So it wasn't even, Ken Brown Stamps at that time. Much less anything after that. So I don't know who has the Ken Brown stamp line now. If they do, I don't know if the Rubber Stamps of America line is in different hands now. I do know that there are some information websites out there. I think Rubber Stamp Madness has a listing of kind of a where they are now type of list as far as stamp companies that have been sold to other companies, and what companies have those lines now, if that's been updated, okay? All right, so this is a half-page piece of vellum right here, and we're going to utilize the characteristics of vellum in order to create some kind of ease of application techniques in this scene right here. I want to have this really dark right here, but I want to have this little character standing out in a decent way from the background without having to do any type of masking or any type of careful coloring going right up to the edge of this style of outline design right here. So, yeah, so let's do some of that. Okay, so that has been stamped out like this. Now, being that this is a vellum type of thing, I don't really need to worry about kind of my placement of this. I mean, maybe I don't want to have, something like so bold immediately behind that creature, but I could, though, which is one of the nice things about doing things this way. Okay, so that being said, let's stamp out some backgrounds on here. I want to have this background pretty dark, so I want it to, reasonably creepy, although it might be kind of interesting one day to kind of, I don't know, kind of contrast this creature with something really kind of light and airy and colorful, I don't know, like some springtime blossoms and flowers or something like that, and putting this creature like a monster in a romantic setting or something like that. It could be interesting to do. I don't know. Okay, this is a matte type of satiny type of finish right here, and I am using StazOn. I'm practicing or playing around with that a little bit more these days, and that gave that an incredible looking imprint. I don't know, I'm getting sold a little bit more on StazOn as I utilize it here. I'm up late, Kay. What are you doing up right now? I'm always up this late, though. Well, for me, it is like, almost 12:30. I don't know what time it is for you, but welcome on board for however long you are on. I don't think this scene should take too long, but I always get kind of wrapped up in the details and kind of adding in all kinds of little, those special effects, After Effects or whatever, in this. So, and it is a reasonably, I don't know, it's not a huge scene or something like that, half page, but, twice the size of your, your typical quarter page card here, but going with these kind of more monochromatics here, which I intend to do. Comes together pretty quickly here. So, all right. So we have our background in here, and this is going to be a vellum piece again. Okay, going over it like that. I'm going to color this guy in. That background should kind of recede into the distance with the use of the translucent vellum being applied over the top of it. Okay, just getting my bearings here for this area around in here, which will kind of be a little bit spotlit for that character. I'm going to color him in a little bit, and then I'm going to block him out from the background with some bleed-proof white. All right, so, and I'm going to have a lot of foreground in here, some other things to really frame off the scene, so I don't have to do too much work here. You know, maybe I have to do some decent work to kind of make it interesting enough with lighting and everything like that, but I think it should go pretty fast here, so let's see how it goes here. The Paper Girl on Prime and got your noticed. It's midnight 30 here too. Oh, well, you're in Pacific Standard Time like I am, I take it then. The Paper Girl. I haven't watched that. What is that about, and how is it? I'm always looking for some good content to watch. There are certain types of things then, shows, it's like, you know, I don't know, The Paper Girl, is it a movie or is it a series? It's always one of those things when those series ends, it's like, all right, what do I watch now? Okay, all right, here's already, I'm kind of running into a situation. I was going to put some textures down here, but I think I want those textures that are going to be close down here to be on the front side of the vellum to make it look like they're really close to us. Although I could put some in the back too, like this too. Like, I want some larger rocks down here. Maybe the back side of the vellum will be good. Let's try that here, okay? Let's see. It's about a 1988 Paper Girls that get transported now. It's after a comic series. Ah, okay. Huh. I haven't heard that comic or the series, but I'll check it out. The last comic series I watched was The Boys, which I collected comics like in the 80s, you know, and I don't know, I wasn't really too familiar with a lot of the different types of comic books that came out in the 90s, although I was kind of checking out some of the latest things, and I was into a lot of the different types of artwork that came out in the 90s, especially the new, I don't know, kind of illustration styles that were accepted, and the a lot more, I don't know, like painterly things going on in the industry, and which I was really excited about. But I didn't watch like Sweet Tooth either, which was another comic book. Okay, so let's see, that is going like that right there. But I'll check it out. If it's good. Is it good? I didn't know if you just started watching it and were kind of making an assessment of it or not. Okay, so let's see. Let's make this really fast here. All right. Let's go for some re-inker fluid. Let's go with a London Fog. Let's see. I really enjoyed The Boys, just in terms of a kind of a just a contrast against the typical, I don't know, comic book superhero types of storylines that have been out. Like I said, I used to collect comics, love comics. I still have a comic collection from, you know, from when I was a kid, or in high school, kind of middle school, high school. But I don't know, they're all starting to feel a little bit the same to me, and I didn't even know about The Boys, so I just started watching it. I don't know, and then I started binge watching it. But Is this going to be another column? Column? What do you mean by that? Okay, so let's see here. All right, just some dye-based inks. Okay, now this is going on in the background, and it's going to be covered up with the vellum, okay? So I don't feel I need to be too careful about this here, all right? You know what? See, that StazOn is not smearing at all. I mean, which is, you know, one of the reasons why they created StazOn, so that you can use it with your water-based media. I think they were mostly thinking about markers, the Le Plumes, the Tombos, that type of thing, and coloring in your imagery and having it not smear because it's, you know, it's solvent against a water-based medium. But that is pretty good there, where I don't have to worry about that smearing on me. So, I might have to do a little bit of a realigning of my thought. I don't like the idea of having to do a lot of cleanup though with StazOn. You know, with water-based media, I mean, I just don't have to really clean that off at all, you know, with dye-based inks, so I don't. So now it's like, okay, with the StazOn, you know what I mean? I better do some cleaning with that post-usage and not let it sit around for sometimes months before I kind of get around to cleaning it off, so... Yeah. Let's see. You start wanted to check it out so far and join it. One girl. Vellum spell check changed it. Oh, are you saying... Oh, yeah, this is vellum, yeah. This will be a vellum piece. Alright, so that is the grays. Again, I want this to be pretty dark. I want it one of those things where I can put little eyeballs kind of in the shadows and things like that, you know. It's, yeah, like you're, I don't know, kind of almost like a cartoony type of approach to, you know, some kind of... you know, scary scene scenario here. With vellum, too, I was just thinking maybe I should have put a full moon back here. But the thing is, with the vellum, if I want to, I could put the, you know, I could put a full moon on the vellum and just lay it down on top, and it's going to be right over the top of that, so... Okay, so let me think about that, too, here. I might have to add something like that in there, and we'll do it with... light pigment ink, or maybe it would be even easier since this is on the vellum and it's going to be over the top of this anyway. Let's do this here. Gosh, vellum really makes things, makes us able to add things in so easily. So if I put like some moon in there, I can just glue that down because this vellum's going to, you know, go right over the top of that anyway, so it'd be like right there. So we'll put the moonlight kind of illuminating in this area down here. Okay, so that moon is a little bit bright. Let's tone that out a little bit. That's a little bit moodier, right? Something like that. All right. Okay, so let's make this a little bit streakier and irregular in the background. And we'll see how much I have to do on the vellum once it's already been applied. I guess if the more work that I do in the background, the less I have to do, maybe, on the vellum itself. We'll see, okay. I'm not an expert at vellum, okay, or this technique right here. but the possibilities are kind of revealing themselves to me with each piece. It's like, I don't know, I have to change my mindset. I have to kind of open my mind to I don't know what we can do with it. Like that moon there, you know. It's like if I'm more just doing stuff on a piece of cardstock, you can't, you know. I guess you can glue that down, you know, but it would be this raised piece right in there. But the vellum's going to be right over the top anyway, like I said. So who cares, huh? Hello, Phyllis. How are you tonight? Or this morning? Kay and I were just having a conversation on a series. We're doing a vellum piece here that'll hopefully scare the socks off of you. I don't know if I've ever done a stamp scene. Can we do a stamp scene that is truly kind of scary, I wonder? You know, like really creepy. I don't know if I've really tried to do that before, though, either. It's kind of been more in the spirit of a kind of a playful, kind of a, you know, a playfully spooky scenario. Okay, so adding in some shadows down here. Okay, so this is, again, this is going to be on the vellum here. So this is my vellum overlay like that. That's going to go in there. So I don't know. It's like doing a. It's almost like doing a kind of working in the spirit of like a movie backdrop in a way, you know, like a matte painting or something. That's what it feels like I'm doing here, almost in a way, you know, where we have so much freedom to. I don't know, just I don't know what it is. Maybe the application, content, and method. Yeah. Is this going to be a misty island? I don't know. I would think that some mist and that type of atmosphere would be kind of appropriate for this piece, though. So yeah, probably, huh? But I really do want it to get pretty dark in here. Like right now, it's just not dark enough. Okay. I laid down so much of that first color of ink that it's just not applying very quickly, but it's applying in a smoother way. So that's the trade-off. If you want it to kind of go on reasonably smooth, like I said, I'm not trying to get it super smooth on here because if I take the time to get it really nicely applied and, you know, my gradation's perfect and all that, it's like I'm going to be covering it up with vellum, so it was, you know, I wouldn't say that it was like kind of a wasted effort or anything like that. I would never say that, but, you know, you can do it, you can work in a much more expedient manner and have, you know, the same kind of visual results, so... I would say just save those kind of really nice applications for your, you know, when you're just working on, you know, a single layer of, you know, imagery or something like that. You have ESP, you know, extra Stampscapes perception there, Phyllis. Yeah, I was busy. I wanted to get on yesterday, kind of at a much earlier time. Then I got busy, and then I was going to go on today, but I didn't know when I might be needed. My son broke his ankle last night doing parkour at the gym. In the middle of a backflip, he landed wrong, so we've been attending to that. So I thought, I better not go on live, you know. I told him to, you know, he's right here in the house, but upstairs. I said, all right, text me if you need anything. He didn't, but, you know, he's getting around everything like that, too. But, anyway, he's asleep, and I am working on my piece now, so, yeah. Oh, you did one today. That's awesome. How cool is that? Maybe I have ESP and I saw you doing this one, Phyllis. So, yeah. All right, so we're getting there, huh? That's kind of, getting kind of moody and whatnot. Hello, Christine. Greetings in Norway. I'm doing a kind of a Norwegian scene right here with the palm trees, right? Oh, I'll have to check that out. I wanted to do something kind of real tropical too. I was thinking, oh my God, it's really hot and whatnot. So I wanted to do something real tropical and stuff. Not that it's not sweltering hot and humid in the tropics, like it, can be. It's tropical. So, but I wanted to do it more like a nighttime scene. Then I thought, okay, let's just do like a horror scene, and make it at night, and it's cooler at nighttime and whatnot. So, yeah. Hello, Jason. Good to see you. We're working with The Creature of the Black Lagoon by Ken Brown Stamps, 1984. It was just a little bit after 1984 that I started working in the stamp industry, not with Stampscapes, but I worked for another company called A Stamp in the Hand Company, and that was in 1987. By that time in 1987, Ken Brown Stamps had already closed, and he had given or licensed all of his stamp imagery to Rubber Stamps of America. And I don't know if they had all the Ken Brown stamps or what. I don't remember a Creature of the Black Lagoon Rubber Stamps of America stamp, but certainly all those other ones, really iconic ones. Parkour, Parkour. Yeah, parkour. It's kind of like a style of gymnastics. Yeah. It's more like an urban street style of gymnastics. They do a lot of that type of stuff, kind of out of the gym, but he does most of his training in gyms. All right, so his first injury. But I said, hey, just utilize it to kind of, work on your other things and mental fortitude and, define yourself and with adversity. All right, so let's see. Okay, so if you just logged on, one of the things I'm doing here is I'm doing this. I was mentioning, I almost feel like this is like doing a movie, like a matte painting, like a backdrop or something like that when you're utilizing vellum, because you put that vellum overlay over anything like that. Now, here's one of the things that I like about vellum is that designs that are kind of more outline in style, Ken Brown stamps do have a little bit of tone on them, but for the most part, they're linear. They're defined by line, okay? So one of the things that if you start combining linear types of things with tonal designs like mine that are heavy in tone, there can be kind of a little bit of a contrasting, kind of almost clashing style, because you have imagery that, they're really fighting to say depth and distance, okay, even within the forms, there's tonal areas, there's textural areas, there's areas that are dark in the back of areas that are light, which represent more distant spaces within those objects, okay? But then when you get into designs that are kind of more outline and, style, one of the things that I like to do is I like to flesh them out with a little bit of color and everything like that, but then these are linear too, so if I stamp this down on a piece of paper like that, if I want all these tones running in the background, it's, you know, I'm going to be blending some of that tone into this if this image is stamped on there. We could do it, though, but I probably wouldn't have like a streak of color going right in the background of it. But because I can stamp it on the vellum, color it in like this or on the front of it, and then just paint that in with that bleed-proof, you know, opaque white, I put it right over the top of it, and anything in the background's not going to interfere with it from a visual standpoint, so problem solved as far as that type of thing goes. Okay, so we want this to look a little bit murky, okay? And I don't want this scene, most of the times when I'm doing like water scenes, I want it to look nice and fresh and everything like that. And inviting, you know, you want to go walk through there, dip your toes into it or something like that. With a Creature of the Black Lagoon, I want it a little bit more, you know, like, I don't know, swampy and kind of, you know, horror movie kind of oriented. So let's add in, why don't we add in some of this kind of this weathered green, you know, of the distressing type of thing. I mean, you know, I mean, you could make it blue if you want to. Maybe we will add a little bit of that in there, but, you know, I want this one kind of dirty looking. I guess the only palm trees you might have out there, Christine, would be like in a greenhouse, huh, or something like that. Okay, so let's see here. Let's try this peeled paint. Anytime I want to go into kind of those more earthy types of variations on hue, the Distress Ink line is really good for that. A lot of times people ask me about certain inks. They'll see me use Marvy or something like that in one video. So it's like, okay, why do you know, do I have to use Marvies to do like a Stampscape scene or something like that? And it's like, well, you know, I use other types of inks. You know, you get the types of inks that you want for the type of hue that you're going after. So, you know, with the Distress Inks, you know, they're supposed to be kind of aged and weathered and, you know, not terribly saturated and bright. So, not bad for a scenario like this. That really does look kind of ugly, though, doesn't it? But, okay, this is going over the top of it, so it's not that big of a deal. And then I'll tone in this a little bit more, too, okay? But, in the background, let's see, let's hit that with a little bit more black again, okay? It's not dark enough, so I'll make it more dark. I'll make it darker on top of the vellum as well, too, okay? I guess that'll look good, because I want to put in a bunch of foreground in here. And see, this vellum is knocking down that almost 100% black to more of a, what would you guys say that is? Looks like a 60% gray, right? Or something like that, or 50%. So, yeah. Is that all the flips and things you had on? Oh, yeah. Oh, okay, you've seen the you've seen the Flickr account. Yeah, that's parkour there. And what he's doing, his specialty in parkour is what they call freestyle. A lot of other parkour it's called speed, where you're just trying to go from one thing to the, you know, a destination spot as fast and as efficient as possible. What my son does in parkour is called freestyle, and it's kind of putting together like if you're in gymnastics, it would be like a floor routine, but with obstacles that you have to, utilize within your, what they call a line, your routine. If it's out in like some park or something like that, then they're doing flips off benches and stuff like that, or the real extreme ones are, like you see people like jumping off roofs and things like that onto other roofs, or down stairwells and stuff like that, doing crazy stuff. He doesn't really do that type of thing, but there's so many injuries in parkour all the time. you go to these tournaments and people are in like casts, usually on their wrists or ankles. But what can you do, you know? That's what they, you know, they love doing it, so. Alright. Alright, so adding this in, that looks a little bit moodier now, huh, with that extra black. I'm going to put this moon up there, I think, still. I'm going to put this up here. Normally I wouldn't just plop something like that back down into a scene. But because this is going to get sandwiched over with that vellum overlay, why not? That's what I'm, you know, that's what I'm thinking at least. So, let's see, let's add a little bit more tone to this moon. Again, this moon is going to be covered up with that vellum too, so... See, I'm just kind of putting a little bit of tone on it to make it a little bit streakier. It's not just a stark white moon, okay? And we'll just add that right up there like so. And then we'll cover that over, and that will be the moonlight shining in this kind of direction here. A lot of times people think that a spotlight has to have a formal kind of a beam of light cutting through, but it's not really that. You just have to have illuminated areas in a given area, you know, and the source of light can be wherever, but you don't have to have this formal beam, you know, which might look cool too, but you don't need it. You know, a beam would only be kind of representative of, you know, like if there's a lot of kind of moisture or something like sediment in the air that's being illuminated, and chances are you wouldn't see this like direct beam coming from like a moon, you know, in that type of scenario anyway. Anyway, I will affix the vellum with the use of a spray adhesive. So I never do that like in studio here. I go outside to do that. I wasn't quite sure if I would affix it here in the live stream, but I don't know. It only takes me a minute. Maybe I'll do that. So I will be leaving you guys if anyone is still on at that time. Yeah. Some people might be waking up right now. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, it's a puke green. The creature of the Black Lagoon likes a puke green, Donna. In fact, that's his favorite color. I think that's the color of that they have that, you know, that creature of the Black Lagoon was in the movies in black and white, but anytime I've seen like a depiction of it, they always have it green. I guess it's because it's supposed to be kind of reptilian, right? Or reptilian? Yeah, it's more reptilian. I guess it should be more kind of like a salamander. I don't know what I mean, you know, something like that. Well, I guess, you know, no, I guess it's scales and stuff like that. More kind of reptilian. It doesn't look like an alligator, though. I was thinking maybe reptilian amphibian or something like that. Okay, so let's get that down there. My inclination is to make that look a little bit better, but you know, I don't want it to look inviting. I want it to look kind of pukey, you know, uninviting. You know, is that a word? So as you see this happen like here, if you like what you see, you can go on over to the Stampscapes website, to the workshop section, and sign up for the Ugly Scapes workshop. Don't go over there, I'm just joking. Okay, getting this darker like so. I don't know if I'm making it too dark, you know, if we're, you know, because it's going to get all kind of blocked out anyway with the vellum. I think the vellum, okay, so when I hold this over the top of this, I think when I do spray seal this and we merge the vellum with the background, I think it does look darker because you're kind of moistening this surface, and then when we brayer it down, I think that percentage is going to look more like this looks like a, I don't know, this looks like a 30% gray or something like this. I think we're going to gain about 20 percentage points, where that's going to look more like a 50% gray or something like that. Okay, so let's utilize, where's that water pattern stamp. Let's get a little bit of water pattern going on this surface right here. I don't know if it'll show through, but hopefully, but maybe this will give me a little bit more texturing as well. It's just kind of weird being able to texturize this surface, knowing that that texture is going to be like in between the legs and everything like that, but I don't have to worry about doing any masking or something like that with the creature. So let's get a little bit of a stronger impression of that down there. Okay, normally I wouldn't do that, but again, we're working on vellum here, so the ability to do certain things, to take liberties with a lot of different whatever methodology, or really opens up here. Okay. I guess on the other hand, if you really create something that you really love on a background, you know, that you're going to be covering up with vellum, it's like, oh my God, I just lost, you know, whatever my favorite points about it. But then again, if you like it so much, then, you know, then don't cover it up with the vellum. You know, just, you know, make it your own thing and do another piece for the, you know, the background or something like that. Okay, let's see. I sent you a pic of the glossy I use and a link to where one can get it online. Excellent, excellent. Ugly scapes. That would be the scary scenes, yes. Halloween. Halloween doesn't have to be, you know, Halloween. Most of the Halloween stuff out there is like, you know, it's more kind of cutesy, which I like too, you know. But yeah, this would be, or maybe ugly scapes isn't the word. Maybe it's like, maybe we should call it like gruesome scapes or something like that. Normally I make a little areas like a little bit darker, I mean lighter in the background, but like I said, I want to kind of create a little bit of a darker area here for like some little eyeballs kind of shining in this, you know, in the foliage. So let's blacken some of that out a little bit. We do want, so, you know, of course we want some of the forms to be showing in here too. But let's see. Okay, so let's go into something a little bit bright. Let's try this number 10 blue. I want some variation in here. Okay, I like the green, but it's just all green like that, unless I take it more green. But let's try it with the blue first here. All right, I think that, okay, that sponge applicator, not sponge, paper towel applicators had it. Oh, wait, no, I have another piece right here. Let's see, Scary Scapes. Scary, maybe, yeah, maybe Scaryscapes, gruesomescapes, horrorscapes, maybe horrorscapes, huh? Horrorscapes is like the intro to the Halloween scenes. Horrorscapes, and then the gruesome is like the follow-up. It's like a tier up in terms of the horrificness of the. And it's like for 18, 18 and above, or that'll be the rating of it. You know. Yeah, that's a little bit better, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, that solved that. Okay, so it's a little, we could get that, that pukiness in there still, but it's not all pukey in the tinge. Solved by Marvy, number 10, which would be kind of similar to the Bahama Blue. Bahama Blue is much, much more dull, though, in intensity. Let's throw some of that blue up here, too. Whether it shows through or not, I don't know. It shows through the vellum. But if it doesn't, anyone watching right now, you can say, I knew that scene when. I mean, this piece is coming together reasonably fast, though. I guess I could work this fast, but there's a certain kind of, I don't know, liberty that I feel when I'm doing this, being that it's going to be covered up anyway. So it's like, I wouldn't say I don't care about it, but I care less about the look of this again, All right. I guess you can see a little bit of that blue up there. Okay, let's see right down here. I think that'll look better with this, like this. We'll bring a little bit more of that into it, like so. I wonder if my moon is going to be too light up here now. That is really light like that. Okay, blue moon, like the song. Let's bring a little of that into it. I probably should be working on, a piece of cardstock instead of just a punched out piece of copy paper, but this is what we're going with here. All right. I think I'm just going to go ahead and adhere that down. You don't need to adhere it really well, because again, I'm just going to put a whole bunch of spray adhesive over this whole thing, and then that vellum is going to be plopped right down on the top of it. So, don't spend too much time, fussing around with this surface piece if you're going to be covering it up. All right, let's see. Okay, let's see. Do I want to go with the darker part up top? Let's go. Yeah, okay, let's go with that. Like that, like so. Okay. Maybe I should have put a little bit of white pigment ink behind that before I put that down. I guess I can put that on top of the vellum too, but I don't know how that would look. Maybe it would look better and more recessed if I put it down right there. If I put that white pigment ink on it right now, there's going to be a space in between the moon and that white pigment ink around there. So, but yeah. Okay, so let's see here. Oh, good night to Phyllis, if she's still on there. Gru and the minions. All right, let's see. Okay, let's start addressing this piece right here. I'm going to say green tones, like we were talking about right there, right? Yeah. Okay. Well, Phyllis, these pieces will always be up on the replays, though, which is a good thing. I'm always surprised when any of you log on at all. I know that, this is broadcasting out wherever, but always surprised. I mean, because out here, like in the US, I mean, this is like, we're on Pacific Standard. There's a lot of people that are kind of joining in on like Eastern Standard Time or Central. They're 3 hours ahead of us. All right, look at that. It's like Dayglow Green or something like that. Now I'm doing, this is on the back side of the vellum, so that is the color on the front of it like that. I'm always kind of, confused as to what color I should color the woman in this scenario here. If it's like at nighttime and it's kind of dark. I don't know, it's confusing. Okay, let's see. This one is going to be, he's going to be like this. So the moon is going to be coming from this direction, so the moonlight. So I want to kind of darken a little bit more, or a lot more, of this side of the creature to emphasize that direction of lighting. So, okay, so, and then you have to remember that if you're working on the front or the back, that'll, you'll have to adjust accordingly here. Okay, so see like that, and then she's casting a shadow, kind of. You don't have to overanalyze this, but just in general, it'd be something like that. Okay, so see how he's a little bit lighter on that side, and then you lay that down like so. Okay, now I'm going to fine-tune the coloring of this after I adhere this, and then I'll apply some tones and shading over the top of this. Now these creatures right there and the woman aren't standing out as much because the background in here is darker, okay? But after I colored them in like that, I'm going to seal them in with that white opaque paint so that when we lay it over, they'll be standing out much more prominently. I mean, depending on how dark I color them, though. The more, the darker I color them, the more they're kind of recessed into the scene and not standing out as much. So, I don't know, you kind of want to play it both ways. You want to have them kind of in the scene in some ways, but, they're the stars' scenes, so you want to have them kind of standing out, reasonably decently. You know what I mean? You don't want to look at the scene and say, at first glance, you didn't even see them or something like that. Not what this stuff. Oh, I forgot to color the hands here. All right. Okay, I'm not going to be zooming in too much because I'm having problems with my camera. I think it's the lens that I've been tinkering around with it. But every time I zoom in, the focus kind of gets out of whack. All right, there's his hands like that. I can tell the artist, they were kind of trying to figure out how to render those hands. It's kind of a tough assignment, how to render those hands well. I think they did a pretty good job, but I can tell it was a, kind of a tough thing. I mean, the hands look kind of big on there, but they're supposed to be kind of be webbed. All right, I can go in a little bit more. Maybe if I'm trying to sneak in with a little bit of a closer zoom here. Okay, so let's go like that. All right, should we make the woman's bathing suit? Anyone see that movie? You know, what color was her bathing suit? Do we want it to stand out more? We can put her in like a red bathing suit. But then, you know, if I do it kind of lighter, I don't want it to look like, you know, like flesh or anything like that. All right, so let's do this. We'll do kind of a fleshier color here, but just as a base. All right, we do want the figure to stand out a little bit, like I said. When my son was pretty young, I don't know how old he was. He was getting into like horror things, like reading Goosebumps and all that, those series of kids horror, which he later transitioned into Stephen King and all that, you know, type of thing. But then it's like all about kind of horror movies for him these days. But when he was little, I figured, okay, you're starting to kind of, you know, really like horror and stuff. So I put on The Creature of the Black Lagoon. And in one of those first scenes in which we see the creature kind of approaching this swimming woman from below, it's like, oh, that's probably where they got the idea, you know, from, you know, Jaws, you know, that opening scene in Jaws. But it keeps, you know, cutting back and forth to the woman kind of swimming and then the creature kind of swimming up and the woman's feet, the camera angles from below and she's like treading water and it goes back to the creature. And my son said, okay, I can't stand it, you know. And, you know, we had to turn it off, you know. But I was thinking it was, you know, it was reason, you know, it was a really tame thing, but, purple it is. Purple would go great with the green. Thank you. Yeah, I was telling him, I think I've mentioned it to him over the past, I don't know, year or two, that, you know, he should watch that movie again, you know, just to see it, you know, sit through it, you know. All right, so I'm adding this purple in here, but again, we want that lighting to be in this piece, okay? So I'm adding a darker value of it, kind of on the underside, but then on the top of it, let me see if I can get in a little bit more, like this. See, yeah, it's my camera's getting a little wonky there, but okay, so lighter tones on top, and darker tones at the base. All right, yeah, that looks pretty good. Thank you for that suggestion, Donna. Okay, so let's do, let's give her some golden locks because it'll, I don't want to make it like black here because I want it to kind of stand out from the background all over all of that pukey green water. Let me see, let me go into that purple too. Let me use a little bit of pink on that. It's looking a little anemic to me just with that violet. I don't have too many different violet tones, so let's add a little bit of that like that. Okay. We could use some, you know, alcohol pens on here too. Let me see. Let me add a little bit of that on there. I'm spending as much time on this creature, I think, as I did on the entire, you know, half-page background in here. By the way, you can add in some other tones in here, like this, you know, with your pens. Sometimes I forget about the markers, you know, but they can really add, you know, some additional I don't know, kind of color depth into a scene, which is nice. All right. Let's see here. All right. Oh, that looks much better. Okay. Now see, after we add the creature in here, I'll have to add a shadow down at the base here in the water. I'll add it. You know where I think I'm going to give it a little bit of a head start and add it. Let's see, it's going over this way, so I get confused here. Okay, so it's going over this way. So it's going from the creature this way. Okay, I'm going to add it down on the back side of the vellum, just as a little bit of a head start like that. I'll show you what it looks like. This is the kind of the shadow. Okay, so make it a little bit more intense, right? The closest to the creature, or whatever figure, if you're doing a cabin or anything like that. Make it a little bit darker, and then kind of make it dissipate. Now, a lot of times I would say do the shadow in the same color as the surface down here, but this is, again, this is going to be on the back, so if I don't have it dark enough, you know, you're not going to be able to see it, so you can see it right there. All right. And like I said, we can go, you know, we can use this on the surface too. You know, this is the back side of it right here, so it's, you know, it's under the surface. So let's see, I'm going a little bit darker than what I would normally do here. All right, just because it is on the back side of the vellum. See that right there? So it's casting its shadow down there like that. Now, I don't know what exactly a shadow would look like in that scenario there, but, you know, I just kind of fake it. I just kind of make it a little bit darker. I try to make it a little bit more irregular too, considering, you know, the surface of the water, maybe it's moving or whatnot, something like that. But okay, so here's what we're going to do. So here's one of the things that's fun about coloring the back side of this vellum right here is that, did I color the front side of it too? Did I forget? I was going to say, because if you're doing all the coloring on the back side of it, then you have this kind of blank area on the front that you can, I think I've forgotten I colored some of the front side of it already, but I was going to say, if none of the media is on there, then you can choose whatever media that you want on the front side of it too, because you're not going to be, you know, mixing in or blending out the colored pencil work on there. So anyway, it is like 120, so you have to give me certain cut me some slack. I'm running off my right brain, you know. My logic is turned off at this point in time. Although in these videos I'm trying to, you know, kind of describe what I'm doing, so I'm probably thinking a lot more than, you know, if I was just stamping. Okay, that is awesome. That has to be the name of this piece right here, right? You know, I was thinking this, it's kind of a crack-up because the creature, like I said, I can't show this too closely, but he's got kind of a little bit of a smile on his face, you know? So it's not like a real menacing creature, the Black Lagoon. I mean, he's not an outright smile, but it's kind of more, I don't know, it's got like a more of a matter-of-fact look to him, you know? Like some businessman walking, you know, or walking down the street or something like that, so, you know. I don't remember the storyline of the creature of the Black Lagoon, but in this scenario right here with that expression on his face, he could be like saving her for all we know. Okay, so I am going on here and blocking out the back. There is definitely, this paint definitely knows that there is wax on there because you can see it's not adhering to the wax. If it doesn't adhere to the wax in some areas, no big deal. Okay, now remember, if I didn't get the coloring complete or right on this back side, remember, you still have the front side to, manipulate and tweak or fine tune, so no problem. If you don't know what this is Dr. Martin's Bleed Proof White, which is an opaque white watercolor paint. Used, I would say, mostly by calligraphers. So someone was asked me in Australia or something like that, where they can get this. If they don't have like a really good or, a decent art store, I guess it'd be an online art store these days. The places that I've found it for people in other countries are on calligraphy websites, where they're selling, things. Sometimes they've been out of stock, but I've found it on like calligraphy websites in other countries. Okay, so that is the block out right there. It's always kind of feels weird kind of doing that type of thing over something that you've just colored, especially if it's on the same side that you've colored it. But, okay, let's see. This paint, it dries pretty fast because, when they're doing brush calligraphy or dip pen style of calligraphy, when you're doing those letter forms like that, you know what I mean? They need that to dry, reasonably fast. All right, so that is the opaque version of that. I don't want to set it down on this right now, but you can see how opaque it is. Ooh, it's really standing out like way too much. It almost looked better before I did that. But then, we're going to render it more further with some colored pencil on the front side of this too, okay? So, yeah, this just kind of gets it kind of blocked out like that, all right? And it's really standing out too. So someone asked me, who asked me that, if this is going to be a really misty looking thing. So that's like your mist and whatnot is going to really incorporate that in. Or that's what, I'm going to try to do, whether it does or not, we'll see. But okay, so here's my question with, at this point in time that I have for this piece, is, okay, do I have any further things to stamp on the back side of this vellum? I've stamped, all these images are on the front right now, okay? But I might want some imagery that's a little bit darker than that, but not as dark as the things on the front side of the vellum. So, you have to kind of, consider those types of things if you are, going to implement that on there. So, let's see, I wanted to add in some kind of like, this type of element here. I do want some larger palm fronds too, to reiterate the palm types of imagery in the background. Okay, so I don't know, I was kind of debating when I was pulling some imagery how cluttered I would be comfortable making this, because I really want to frame this creature off. So am I willing to just, really clutter it up quite a bit with, these different types of textures like this. So see that right there would be kind of a thing, where you have this kind of hand. When you utilize these types of branches like this, it's almost like it's pointing at, the viewer, at the objects that you want them to see. Okay, now look at this right here. So here's one thing that I've never been able to do, because I don't have a right side and left side for this one. I can do this front side vellum here, okay? But, usually when I go like this on the other side, I'm kind of holding it down this way, okay? But I've never been able to go this way, but I can on this side of the vellum like this. Okay, so I'm going to do that because I usually can't do that if I'm not doing a vellum piece. Yeah, I need to watch that again. I think there was only one. I think there was only one Creature of the Black Lagoon, wasn't there? I don't think there was like another version of it. That's what I was thinking, Jason. I was wondering if it was white in the poster. And they probably made it white because it was a black and white movie, so it has to contrast more, right? So the white would look, it would make her stand out more, right? We're going to have a Creature of the Black Lagoon watch-along party. I don't even know what it's on. I think it used to be on Netflix or something like that. Maybe it's on Prime. I don't know, something. Okay, let's see. Let's go with that. Let's go with one more. Does anyone here like horror movies? A lot of my friends, I found out, like I used to have this hiking group that I went hiking with all the time. Most of us were all in our 30s and stuff. But several of them, because we started doing some other things. We started having stuff like movie night and stuff like that. And I found out that, I don't know, like at least half of them could not watch a horror movie, They just get, it freaks them out too much, when they're like home, alone or something like that. Residual negative effects. Dr. Martens doesn't move your marker colors around. That's a good question, Kay. And I found that I'm trying to think if it did with the dye-based inks. I don't think it does because it just dries so fast. But I was coloring the back side of the vellum right there. Okay, so my impression of the creature is on this side of the vellum, and I was blocking out the back side. But I'm trying to think if that has moved something around, like put, like a water-based media back into solution. I don't remember it doing that before. Or I don't remember if I've done that before. Usually with this blocking out that I'm doing, I'm trying to think if I've ever blocked out with the imagery. But one of the things that I've been using on this one, I've been using the StazOn, so it's a solvent-based. And then, of course, the Dr. Martens is water-based, so I can't imagine the water-based Dr. Martens would do anything to the solvent-based, permanent StazOn ink. Okay, now this isn't the only imagery I'm going to be using in here, but it's starting to come together a little bit more. Okay, so let's keep developing this. All right, I wanted to use this, okay, in the foreground here, and I'll put it on the front side of the vellum. One of the things that I always thought would be cool on these real kind of, I think these vellum pieces look really three-dimensional, but I wish I could emboss on the vellum. But I just, that vellum, it's already kind of a little bit wonky when you add too much, like, moisture to it. Sometimes when I'm doing a lot of blocking out on the vellum, like with my birch tree types of scenarios, or I don't know. I've done some other things, and the vellum starts to, on this thin surface like this, it starts getting all kind of buckled and everything like that. And then when you go to spray seal, it's hard to get, a real smooth, even, flat application of it on the surface because of the vellum. It's just too buckled. Even with a brayer, sometimes there's like a ripple in it. Okay, so that if you didn't see my, I don't know, one of my other vellum pieces in a recent stream, was I was really telling people, if you're doing a vellum piece, a lot of times, you won't get that, like a really flat seal. I've had like ridges and like air bubbles between my vellum and the surface, and my suggestion is, to just assume that you're going to get some of those, and if you don't, then that's good. You know what I mean? Or sometimes if there's a little ripple, I don't know, I've incorporated those types of things into the scene sometimes, and it just, I don't know. I just say, okay, it makes it more kind of three-dimensional that way. I had these ridges on one of my pieces that was like a winter birch tree scene with bare trees. And then in the snowy area at the base of those ones, I just kind of added some extra shadows around those. There were some significant like air bubble ridges, okay? And sometimes you brayer them out, or I take my finger and I burnish them out, okay, on the, after, when they've been freshly applied, and by the time it dries, and then, I don't know, those air bubbles, like they're popped out again. It just didn't seal, or, you know what I mean? Maybe the adhesive wasn't thick enough or something like that. So, it might happen. So, yeah, and if it doesn't happen, great, but, I wouldn't get too stressed out over something like that. Okay, now these might not work in the background here because they're supposed to be in front of these rocks, and because I'm stamping it on the back, those rocks might look like they're in front of the palm trees, so... But again, I'm taking advantage of this front and back type of, scenario here, or capability here, and stamping those right in there like that. So, all right. Yeah, it's not too bad. That, I don't know. Those rocks, I mean, they could be behind that. Okay. Kay loves horror movies. You're my type of person. I found that people that like horror, it seems like they really love horror movies, okay? So some of the most comments that I've ever received on scenes, it seems like the horror ones. But I know that it repels a lot of people. But there are certain people, the people that love it really love it, It's like this, there's this whole community or something like that. Sometimes I don't know, the horror pieces like resonate with people sometimes more than, I don't know, some of the other pieces. Okay, so see, this one's much lighter, so I'll probably put something over this in the front of this. Either that same palm tree, it'll go a little bit like this, though. And that will look like it's in front of these ones, hopefully. Or I can put another branch down here, I can go with something spindly like that. I don't know. Or, just something like that. We'll go into this spot right here. Because see how it's kind of a little bit unbalanced like this in terms of the value that's much darker there and lighter down there. And again, that is not blending in right there, but I'll try to blend it in. The white pigment ink usually solves all of my problems in life. I like horror movies too. I wouldn't say it's my favorite genre or anything like that. I like good movies, you know. I don't care really what genre it is. I don't know, you know, maybe I do have, you know, if it's a really good certain genre or, you know, over, you know, another one maybe. But I guess I probably do get a little bit more excited about certain genres of movies though. But as long as a movie is good quality and writing and all that stuff, I like all of them. But I don't know. Yeah, it's sometimes it's hard to find like a really good horror. There's a lot of really bad horror movies out there, I would say, and we've been watching them all if it's on streaming services because my you know it's like all my son's kind of interested in. So it's like, all right, uh, I guess we're a horror watching family now, you know. Okay, so I'm trying to decide here. I'm not. I'm looking at this piece right here. I'm trying to compose in my head what I need to do here. I want like little eyeballs kind of in the background there, and I'm trying to decide if I should do that on the back of this vellum, on the in here on this piece right here, or if they should go on the front of it. I'm thinking probably on surface 2 or 3. Let's call this surface 1, surface 2, and then surface 3 right here. Okay. Look at that little piece of lint there. So we can kind of get a good idea of how that's going to show through there. Okay, so we can do tests too. We can add some little eyeballs kind of in the, you know, in the shadows in there. And if we don't like them, we just color them out, and then we can add them on this piece, right? So, the capabilities of vellum. Classic horror over modern suspense horror. Hey, I'm with you, Jason. Now, what's classic horror to you, Jason? Are we talking about, like, real classic? Are we talking about, you know, famous monsters of filmland? Or are we talking, like, you know, 70s, 80s, you know, type of stuff, you know? The Shining and Carrie? Are we talking about, you know, the Wolfman and, like, you know, original, like, black and white Frankenstein? Yeah, that branch is working good over the moon, isn't it? It kind of incorporates it and it kind of pushes it in the distance like that. Hitchcock, yeah. You know what? Hitchcock was one that I didn't start watching a lot of that Hitchcock stuff until I think I was like in college or something like that. Like I hadn't seen Psycho. You know, back when I was in high school is when you started being able to rent movies and stuff like that too. So, and I think I started watching more of that, you know, Hitchcock stuff. You know, like I said, like in college in those years, early adult years, you know, I started watching more of that. I don't remember what the first one I watched was. But yeah, I hadn't seen Psycho, I think, until I'm guessing my 20s. It wasn't playing on, you know, TV when I was a kid. I think I was just watching, let's see, what was I just watching? What was that one? Brian De Palma and Angie Dickinson movie. All right, little googly-eyed, you know, creatures in the shadows here. It's kind of that fun element of you know, it's almost like Scooby-Doo kind of horror right here. You know, creatures like that. I don't know if they'll even show through, but we'll see. Let's see here. Let's add a little bit of atmosphere into that background too here. I don't, I have some glow in the dark K. Um, I find that the glow in the dark paints that I have in inks, when you charge them up with a light, I don't know, it lasts like, if it does last, it lasts like a couple seconds or something like that. But if you have a black light on it, then it really kind of stands out. Sometimes those, like if I did those little eyeballs in the glow in the dark paint that I have at least, or the ink, the white almost stands out more under a black light kind of a scenario. I don't know if you've seen it, but I did a scene. I think I stamped it under a black light, or did I just stamp it out and then turn the black light on after? I can't remember. But I have this glow in the dark vinyl inkjet paper or something like that, and that was really cool to stamp on. The only problem with that, I thought I'd be able to find like really inexpensive glow in the dark like cardstock, but man, there is nothing out there these days. All right, so there's our little eyeballs. I need more of them right around in here. Okay, let's see. Creature feature. Yeah. I think my kind of, I bet you my introduction to horror, now that, you mentioned that, it was probably Twilight Zone. But then we did watch Creature Feature and Outer Limits, though. When I was a kid growing up, it was always on, whatever, syndication. Yeah, Creature Feature. All right, adding in some little highlights in here. Sometimes the highlights can make things look a little bit more inviting and whatnot, having illumination. Or on this one, I'm not going necessarily for inviting. Like normally if I did a scenario like this, I wanted to create this kind of atmosphere or a setting where you really feel compelled to enter that water and, roll up your pants or whatever. I guess you'd be wearing shorts maybe or something like that. But going out and kind of standing in the water or something like that. But on this one right here, trepidation. Trepidation and dread, Isn't that the kind of isn't that the kind of the feeling that we want in all good scenes, trepidation and dread? And, equal to with repulsion. Okay, let's see here. Everything before the Grudge movie. Dress to Kill. Yeah. Thanks, Kay. I like that. I like that Dress to Kill. The Brian De Palma's, The Carrie. One of my favorite horror movies when it had come out. 70. Or no, it was 80s, right? It was probably around 80, 82. It's just the original Alien, Shining. Shining really freaked me out from a psychological standpoint. Stanley Kubrick. Oh my gosh. Okay, so, but I need some horror movies, like new horror movies that really scare me. It's really hard. I'm almost not scared of watching any new horror at all, I want this real kind of feeling of dread and whatnot. Okay, so adding some of this into these trees. Again, I'm not sure how much this is going to be, affect the overall, because we're just going, I'm going to be covering it up a lot. But, why not add it in there in the event that it can potentially kind of enhance the the piece. And having this in the background too, if it shows through at all, will give us a nice head start to the incorporation of this in a similar atmosphere in terms of this mist in the foreground like that. I can tell this, that creature, I'm really going to have to darken him in too. But boy, that sure looks good down there, doesn't it? Oops, a little blobby, but here we go. Like that. That really looks good in terms of that illumination. Let's illuminate some of these trees a little bit more with this moonlight. Having some darker elements against it is really nice, but maybe having some that are kind of, you know, trees that are illuminated. We'll have some darker objects going over the front of that on that vellum too, so we'll be able to have some contrasting textures in here and lighting, but we'll also be able to have some crisp imagery in the foreground too because of that vellum. So again, you know, I don't know. Yeah, I'm not going to do everything on vellum, but that vellum sure does open up some opportunities for us. It allows us to rethink things too. Okay, so this area down here, I mean, it just got too, you know, it's not, I wanted a little bit more spotlit from the moon for that creature too, so I need it down here like that, so adding a little bit more lighting in the background, which I, you know, I wouldn't be able to do it so liberally if it were not for that overlapping kind of ability that we're going to be doing on here too, so. All right. Oh, when I do my little my little intro videos to this piece, I think I have a perfect sound effect for this piece. There's this, I think it's under animals or something like that, but there's this brontosaurus kind of yelp, you know, that I'll add into to it. All right, so that is that. Let's put a little bit more right in here. Well, actually, let's see. Okay. Yeah, we need to go a little bit more extreme, don't we? Like that. See, if I do that, that really, I'm sure that shows up right in there, like that. Yeah, I'm being a little bit too conservative with my usage of the white. Here, let's go down here a little bit more. Like that. And that'll create a little bit more contrast between this branch and that background like that too. It makes this stand out a little bit more, having the area in back of it a little bit lighter. Okay, let's see. Let's go right here. Let's put a little bit more lighting right in here, like that. I'm finding I can go rather blobby with my application like that. See, it doesn't even matter like that. All right. I think it is time to go and add that spray adhesive to this, okay? All right, so we have this, and the spray adhesive that I use is just some real basic spray adhesive. It's a 3M Super 77. There's art adhesives out there, but this one's a really good general one, and I do know that a lot of artists use this. Ampersand Art, which makes these fine art panels, okay, for the art industry, they recommended this to me when I was doing another project years ago. I developed this product called Stampboard with them, so I knew all of them over there, but now I was asking them some different product lines on this project I was working on years ago, and they just said, hey, you know, I said, hey, should I get the 3M kind of more archival one or whatnot? And they just said, the guy that I was talking to, who was a painter, a lot of the people that work over there at Ampersand they're artists, and he told me he just used the Super 77, so I didn't have to. This stuff's like you can probably get it at Michael's or whatever. Okay, but okay, so I'm going to take this and I'm going to spray this. And what worked for me a little bit better this last time, when I was doing, when I did this piece right here, these ones are all the things that are blocked off right here, these birch trees. I added more adhesive to the background on this one than I usually do. And I got a completely, really, a smooth contact and application on this right here, where I didn't get any bubbles and little ripples in there. So I don't know, maybe I need to use more adhesive than I thought I was comfortable with. I thought adding a thinner layer would give me a better contact with it, and it, I wouldn't have blobs of, kind of glue anywhere. But I don't know. On that one, I added a little bit more, and I thought it worked better. Okay, so, I mean, you could, in theory, spray seal, add the spray adhesive on the back of this, but I think that because this is thin and wobbly and, so on and so forth, that spray sealing the thickest element is better, I think it can handle it better. It's not going to start bowing on you like that if you get it kind of wet. So, all right, so I'm going to do that. Go grab your drinks and bathroom break. Not that you can't be, not that you weren't doing that anyways during these streams and whatnot. Okay, so I'll be back in about 1 minute here, or 2 minutes maybe. Okay, I think I almost added too much adhesive on this because it's a little bubbled in some areas here. All right. Let's get, you don't have to work too fast, but get it on there in a reasonably good time frame from the point of application. I didn't get it completely straight there, but straight enough. Okay, yeah, that is bubbling there, so I got those like darker little things showing through. But let's see if this is going to give me a reasonably decent seal on here. All right. If you don't have a brayer, just use your hand and go across there like that. Sometimes it doesn't go on evenly, so you get kind of some of the picture from the background showing through in a stronger saturation than other areas too. But that's when we're, you know, we add in that stuff in the front. See, there's like those little spots there. Okay. Okay. But not too bad. Okay. I thought we'd be able to see the background a little bit more, but I don't know. We didn't on this one. Sometimes it shows through a little bit more, or maybe on the other one I just used the paint pen, so. Okay, so anyways, there's a little bit more of a distance created in the background. All right. Let's see here. We'll get a black. Oh, I already do have a black pen here. Black Prismacolor. Okay. And we need a much, much stronger framing kind of happening around on this entire perimeter here too. And then we'll bring in some highlights and darker imagery. All right, let's just start on the framing here, okay? So I'm gonna go with some dye-based, just black ink here. Okay. All right, I'm just going to use my blue one here to get that a little in there. I loved, I think I've seen all the Twilight Zones, Christine. Love that entire series. I think we were just watching Twilight Zone on something. It's on one of those streaming services now. And I think we saw, I don't know, I seem to recall, I don't know, it was like a couple months ago or something like that. I'm trying to remember. But I think I saw a Twilight Zone that I hadn't seen before, and I thought I'd seen them all. They used to have these things called the Twilight Zone marathons, and sometimes one of the things about a certain marathon, you know, they'd be showing it from midnight to midnight, and one of them, one year, I think when I was in high school or something like that, it was like, you know, a Twilight Zone that hasn't been seen in, you know, years and years. And, but again, I think there was another one that I hadn't seen before. It was really weird. And I thought that was fairly recently. But talking about horror, though, that Talking Tina one was really scared me. And I think I was like in high school or something like that too, that talking doll. All right. A little bit of darker tone around the perimeter. Let's go even farther in, and we'll take this vignette idea even further here. Like so. Okay. Yeah, the reverse image ability is really amazing, huh, Kay? Jordan Peele has the new Twilight Zone series. Oh. Huh. I'll have to check that out. Did I know that? I don't know if I did. Huh. They tried to bring back that Twilight Zone series in the 80s, I think it was. and maybe the 90s. I don't think it was the 90s. I think it was in the 80s. Late 80s, right? And I mean, it was okay, but I don't know. I think just the writing on that first series was so good. And I watched The Twilight Zone, the movie, a bunch of times. I didn't think it was that great with all those different directors, but I don't know. I don't know. I like Twilight Zone so much. I've watched that movie, Twilight Zone, the motion picture, a few times. Does anyone have kind of a top 10 horror movie list at all? Or some of the scariest movies you've ever seen type of list? I think when they do surveys on that, on horror movies, probably starting from the 80s and on, I think just The Exorcist. I'm not talking about the, came out in the 80s, but if they've done surveys on, people's, what they consider the scariest movie they've ever seen, I think The Exorcist was up there, like way up there. I think Psycho was up there. Okay, let's see. Good night, Terry. Thanks for joining in. All right, let's see here. All right, we need a much stronger cover on here, I think, with stronger imagery. Let's go. I'm going to go in like this. Oh, I know. What would... I don't have that imagery out, but the... I'm going to come in... let's see. I have that Spanish moss stamp. Let me see if I have that handy. Or, you know what? I'm just going to use this right here. Oh, not with the... All right, here. Let's go with the stays on. Okay, a little bit of a canopy over the top there. That. I wish VersaFine Clear would dry on vellum, but... Or was someone saying that it did? I can't remember if in this other stream someone was saying that it did for them. Because that would be really, really dark and very dimensional. Okay, so that is that. All right. Tales of the Crypt. came out. Let me see. Wait, in the 70s? Is that one Tales of the... Are you talking about the HBO series, The Tales of the Crypt? The Howling werewolf movies. Yeah. I saw The Howling. That came out the same year, I think, as American Werewolf in London. Because I remember thinking, I wish The Howling won for the best special effects. But I think American Werewolf in London won out on that one. Does anyone know what Fangoria is? It's a magazine. Or Famous Monsters of Filmland. I was going through this box of magazines that I won in an auction when I was going to I almost said a rubber stamp convention. I'm so used to talking about rubber stamp conventions in these streams, but I went to a comic book convention and I won a big box of magazines, and it was there was a lot of stuff like Famous Monsters of Filmland, Fangoria, stuff like that. All, everything that do with the latest horror. I'm getting a lot of glare on here from my. Let me change the exposure of this camera a little bit. Okay, there it is right there. I was saying, this looks weird. It's like my camera I had it exposed for a white piece of paper, but this is what it's looking like right now. So it's not so blown out light like that. Okay, that looks better. Okay, let's see. Okay, here is the black here again. Okay, so let's render this out a little bit. This little creature here, he's really not incorporated in very well at all with the surrounding area, because he's, totally stands out. Here like this, so. Okay, I'm really going off of this illumination right here, so really darkening him in on this light, and same with the figure, like so. I'll put her hair a little bit more in the shadows like that. So you do a little bit of oscillation between kind of the lighting in here and emphasis. So, in here, the creature would probably be darker, but you want to emphasize the character too. So, maybe there's some front lighting coming in if you were a director, making a movie or something like that. See this leg right here, the bottom side of this leg? Let's really kind of darken that in like this. Like that. If you darken a little bit behind here, her arm sticks out a little bit more, but let's kind of shade the arm a little bit like this. Okay. Kind of that area underneath the neck like this, with that top lighting. Let's go like that. Okay, and then let's work on that shadow again, but on the front of the vellum this time. Okay, he's sitting in there a little bit more now. Let's see. They heat set the versifying Claire. Oh, okay, that's what it was. Oh, The Tales of the Crypt was a movie in the 70s? I'm not aware of that one. Huh. Oh, huh. We raised 10,000 chickens at a time for the eggs after Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds came out. It was 3 weeks before I could venture in to pick up their eggs from the nests. That's awesome, Paula. That movie was effective on you. Okay, now Paula just reminded me. I think the scariest movie that I ever saw, or that scared me the most, was Jaws, okay? Because I could not, we used to go fishing and stuff like that. Like freshwater bodies of water scared me, after that. Anything, like a lake would scare me for a while. I think that came out in 72 or something like that. So I was like 5 at the time, It had a big impact on me, that Jaws, now that I think about it. We used to go to the beach all the time, fishing, ocean, like surf fishing. Now, I wasn't petrified. I wasn't I'd still go, but I was definitely thinking about that. I remember one time, I think I was even afraid to get in the bath, a little bit. I wouldn't, it wouldn't prevent me from taking a bath, but I remember looking at it, looking at it not with the same eyes as before. My older sister is a big fan of horror. So she always loved, like in the 70s and 80s. I think I don't know. I'm wondering if her favorite movie of all time might be The Legend of Hell House, that black and white movie, or maybe The Haunting. She loved The Haunting too. All right, let's see. That's awesome, Paula. Yeah, I think I'd be scared to go in amongst thousands of you know birds after watching that the birds. All right, let's see if we can give this some really good atmosphere with some white pigment ink. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that we want to go in and do at this point in time. You know what? I think we need to emphasize some of those eyeballs. Those eyeballs are just too recessed now, like that. And we did get some of that spattering from, some of that thicker paint. So if I bring those out a little bit more, I think it'll kind of de-emphasize that texturing from the vellum adhesive, effect. It's a good thing, though, Paula. I don't remember chickens in the movie The Birds, but can you imagine if there was a chicken scene? Or was there a chicken scene? I don't remember it. I remember it mostly like crows and seagulls. You could put down, I could put down, but I think a moonbeam would just be too extreme on this one. I'd want to have more beams in there. Could, though. If I did that, I would bring it... See, I've kind of blotted out a lot of that moon in there, so it's not so bright to de-emphasize it. Okay, so let's see here. Okay, that's a little bit better. All right, 2. I'm going to highlight some of these branches in here. All right, can you see that? I hope you can. I don't think... I'm a little bit worried about zooming in any more than this. I think it'll my camera will lose focus. I think it's the lens that's not that's gone a little wonky these days. Okay. A little bit of highlighting down here. Okay, let's add some highlights on this water's surface too. My pen's, let me see here. I wonder if this pen's dry. If I've used up all the ink. Let's see. Okay. It's starting to come together, isn't it, Paula? It was really kind of separated in terms of the background and the foreground, but when you start adding in those kind of unifying textures, that's when kind of those elements start to come together a lot more like that. So for me, anytime, like this scene had problems, but I don't really see it as a problem because it was just a preliminary kind of thing, but sharp highlights and soft highlights for me almost always do the trick for me in terms of like the white paint pen and the white pigment ink. I don't know, it just brings everything together. It kind of unifies things from two different textures, and they're both kind of lighting too, so they also do, you kill two birds with one stone in some ways. You bring in highlights from a value standpoint in terms of light and dark, and you unify it from a textural standpoint in terms of soft and crisp, I guess you can say. Sharp, crisp, you know, soft and sharp. Okay, so adding these little ripples down in this water like this. Okay, like that. It's a little bit too, you know, haphazard, but we're going to be bringing in the white pigment ink in here too. So, all right, let me get rid of a couple of these little. It almost looks like I spattered it with oil in there. You know, that adhesive underneath there. Like I said, I get that a lot. I didn't. Maybe I got it in the other one, but I just added. There was so much color going on that maybe it was, you know, it wasn't so visible. All right, but that, let's see. Okay, there we go, like that. It's helping it, huh? Those little ripples back there, huh, Donna? Birds pecking. I was wondering, is there anything that kind of, I don't know, when you see like a bunch of like crows on a, like a power line or something like that, or clustered, do you sometimes still, does it take you back to that movie at all? Or has it over the years when you see a cluster of them like that? All right, white pigment ink. Okay, let's see. 5:30 on the East Coast, Jason. All right, thanks for joining in, Jason. And have a good few hours of sleep, or however long you're going to sleep until. Or are you getting up? You mentioned breakfast there. Okay, so. Okay. So adding in that white pigment ink down there, look at that. Now, see, that's really kind of bringing it, together there. Bringing it together in terms of incorporating the figure in with the scene like that. Okay. This one's the Brilliance pigment ink, by the way. But I think, any of the, Hero Arts or whatever, Stampin' Up, whatever, white pigment ink should work on here. Sometimes I'm wondering, again, like the VersaFine Clear is a oil-based pigment ink. Pigment ink, yeah. And sometimes you have to heat set it. But sometimes, when I've used like a really thin layer of pigment ink on scenes that I've done in the past, if it's on glossy cardstock or whatever, I found that it dries without any problem, just because of the the amount that I'm using on there is just so little. But I don't know. You got to test it out though a little bit. But I think it should be fine. Like I said, I was using the Clear Snap Color Box White almost exclusively on all my scenes. Before and I didn't like using the Brilliance because it dried too fast, but I don't know. The Color Box dried slowly on glossy cardstock especially, so it really gave me time to manipulate the ink, but I don't know. I really got used to the Brilliance, and I like that it dries a little bit faster so that I can tell if I need to add a little bit more, because oftentimes this pigment ink, it dries, and it dries more transparent looking. Therefore, it dries darker looking, okay? But this, it dries, so much faster, so. Okay, so let's see. Let's add a little bit around that moon onto the objects that are around the moon so that they're catching some of that moonlight, like this branch right here. So see that right there? It kind of put that branch in the moonlight a little. Let me see if I can just bring this up here. Okay, that's totally out of focus like that. But you can see it like that. So some of these little leaves and branches around in that area, like about like so. Maybe the tops of these branches right here. I'll put a little bit of a tone on these branches. And again, I don't do the whole thing, so I'd like to oscillate it between some and none, like that. So it's like soft, sharp, something like that. So it just kind of plays around with the values of those objects a little bit, like that. Now, when I stamped out this one right here, it stamped out a little bit lighter, so I'm just going to go with that and make it even lighter like that. So now it's kind of catching some of that moonlight like that. It looks a little bit weird right now, but what I'll do is I'll put a little white highlight on it with the pen, you know, just to incorporate that in a little bit more. And this area in here where we have all these little eyeballs, you know, I can kind of mute that a little bit into the background so they're not standing out quite so, you know, much from... They're incorporated in a little bit more. They're standing out because I want them to stand out, but it's done a little bit more gracefully, I think, like that. You know, having that little fog in the, you know, the distance like that, and then I won't apply it in some of the other areas like that, so, yeah. But that being said, I might want to go with yet another layer in there, which I think it'll take, you know. Let's see, let's add a little bit more around the creature too. I almost forgot to highlight some of the creature too. I can't wait to add, you know, the little sound effects to this one right here. Probably this little, it's called Lake something lake. And there's little splash sounds or something like that. We can have some crickets in here. Okay, I don't want to put too much highlighting on them. In fact, that might be a little bit too much, but... Okay, yeah, I might have put a little bit too much on them, so you just go back into it like this. And just kind of blend it out a little bit like so. All right. You know, I never thought about this before. I wonder if I add a little of this to some of these trees, maybe I shouldn't do that. I'm just kind of curious to know. Since I've added some highlights on some things, I wonder if I can just kind of darken some areas of these palm trees. Not that you'd see a lot of tonal variation in them, but might be interesting. Okay, now before I forget, I've illuminated some of these leaves like this, so I can put a little bit of a highlight on them, like so. That. Okay. I illuminated on his forehead a little bit too much. He needs to get greened up again. What was that song by Kermit? It's good to be green. Yeah, that's better. Okay, let's see. Doing those little kind of splashy, kind of concentric circles around down here. I'm kind of putting some of it into that shadow there. And if I don't like it, I'll just, you know, I'll just run you know, some extra tone over the top of it with some colored pencil. Okay, let's see. This is the part I really like doing, all these little finishing touches on these pieces. I feel it, you know, I like doing those little things that kind of brings a piece together like really well, you know, like from a textural standpoint. All right. Let's see. I don't need a whole lot of this. I'm going to use some of this right in here like that. Paula, most of my pieces I have given away. Just like most card makers, you know. Some of my pieces I'm saving these days, like a lot of the foil pieces, so I can show them when I'm doing those virtual classes. And I'm thinking about adding in a vellum, you know, class to the itinerary, or not to the itinerary, but to the, the class offerings, like just a beginning vellum one. Because this vellum, I don't know, it is so much fun to work with. It's kind of like a little adventure, you know. I don't know, they just always talk about, you know, the kind of the philosophy of, you know, kind of doing things and process, kind of not product, and, you know, all those, you know, different sayings, you know, it's better to travel hopefully than arrive. But this one, I don't know. I think it's there's just so many things we can do on this vellum. There's a lot of opportunities that just aren't there. Now, I mean, you know, if you're doing kind of a background and you're doing front and back, then you're dealing with 3 different layers there, you know, so it would just be a matter of if you're doing something like this, and if you like kind of the end result as opposed to doing it on just one surface and taking less time, you know. But if you like the look of it and those types of, abilities that this kind of process affords you, I just find it really fun to do. Okay, so I want to go a little bit darker on the perimeter there. I wonder if I can with the dye-based ink. I don't think the StazOn, I just don't think that I want to do that. I think if I put it on there, it's just going to dry like instantly. We could try it though. Or I wonder if StazOn ink on this would work, or if it would just go on too, you know, crazy fast. Like this is really going on nice and smoothly. So I want to frame this one off though. I'm gonna put this on like a piece of black paper. I don't know, maybe I'll do it right now. You know, as a border, but okay, so this is all glary like that. That vellum is kind of shiny and kind of glistening, but this is what it looks like right here without all that glare on it. Okay. Just like that, that. Okay, looking at that without the glare, in the camera, one of the things I noticed here, I need to develop this little, I need to blend out this little area in here a little bit more. with some additional pigment ink. This. I don't know if you guys have seen one of my other vellum pieces using the skeleton, where I stamped the skeleton. It was either on the front or the back of the vellum. And you can't see it because I stamped it in white. So that when you move the piece in the background, I think it was some trees. It was like a tree, like a grove. Then the skeleton showed up, you know. So I want to have this vellum piece like this, and if you can do some kind of insert in there, you know, it was like a daytime scene. But then when I threw that black on there, you know, you can see the skeleton like appears. So if you make some kind of construction where you can do this like insert, you know, in the back of it like that. And again, this vellum is almost like it's like a movie set or something like that, where you have those kind of rolling props, you know, or not props, but those rolling backdrops in there. You can come up with like some sort of foreground scenario here on the vellum, but then you can have, you know, you can do, I don't know if I do, you know, the creature of the Black Lagoon or something like that, but you can have like these things in here, whatever, animals or whatever, and you can pull this thing and it would be like one scene, and maybe you go to the next one, it would be like a sunset or something like that. You go back and it's like winter or something like that, moonlight, you know. I think that'd be kind of cool if we can come up with some sort of construction like that for this surface, you know, of vellum. I think it would be really dynamic. Okay, so I'm going to do something on here. A lot of times I cut this out and I just try to match that up. I'm going to do this first on here so that I don't have to be so precise with my positioning, and I can just cut it out on here. So, but I think this piece is done, you know, in terms of the stamping portion of it. I can cut this down to make it a little bit more flush too, but I think I positioned it okay on that, you know, merging the two together. Okay. I use quite a bit of tape on that one, even though this is reasonably flat, but sometimes if I don't do, you know, those little extra ones, you know, and this is sitting around for a while, I don't like how some of the pieces kind of like, I don't know, they kind of buckle over time a little bit. Yeah, let's mount this. Yeah, I am mounting this, okay. I wasn't going to do a lot of this, but I was thinking I might not even merge them in this video, you know, because I was starting it so late, but, you know, you get started on these pieces and it just feel, you know, you want to see what it looks like. I want to see what it looks like, you know. So you just take it all the way. I don't have to be up too early tomorrow anyway. All right, so let's see. All right, now let's see. I wonder if I should mount this. I do have some dark glossy cardstock, but I think I'm going to do this. I'm going to mount this on my black matte cardstock instead. Yeah. All right, this is a piece of Astro Brights black cardstock. Okay, I think I'll go for a little bit. Yeah, what is that? About a 1/2 inch border around there, like that. I can go a little bit bigger, like that. More like that, huh? That looks better, like that. Here, let me put this back here so you can see something like that. I think we already have a name for this piece. We're going to that date night. That cracks me up. Thing is, when I use these images that are discontinued, you know, if someone does like it, it's not a great thing, you know. Where do you get that? You can't. Yeah. Okay, I didn't write a quick scene, though, in that description now, did I? I do want to come up with a series of scenes that take about maybe 15 minutes or so. The vellum, you can do some really quick things with vellum, though. You know, some imagery on the front, photo stamping on the back, or photographic print in the back. And that's like one of the fastest applications. I mean, you can go as kind of extreme as you want with a scene in the front of it, but if you're doing it over those, like a daytime, you know, cloudy scene, it's like instant. Or even like a mirror card. Oh my god, a mirror card on this one would have been awesome. You know, with that creature like that. I'll have to think of a scenario for that one. Yeah, you know what? Funny thing, when I was doing videos and uploading, and you know, I don't know. I don't really consider these most of my videos to be like so much instructional as much as they're, I don't know, more exploratory. Here's one of those things. If you keep it like this too, you can put, you know, like another thing down here with a, you know, a word stamp or something like that. You can put the title of it or whatever. What is it? Date night. I'll just keep this as a card, though. I'll just cut that off. Oh, no, it's tempting, though, to put this, you know, it'd be a crack up to put one of those quotes down here, like, you know, a trip of 1,000 miles begins with one step. You know what I mean? Or something goofy like that, you know, from the Scenic Sentiment stamps. I might have to leave that open here for, you know, potential interpretation. I might put a word stamp down here for later. I don't know. Otherwise, I would just cut it off like this, like that. I think I would give it a little bit more spacing down here at the base. But anyway, yeah, I think I want to leave this down here. I might put something down here. I don't know. I'll think about it. But yeah, going back to that thing about like these pieces like this. Yeah, I remember on video, one of those videos that I was doing back when I was it was probably a big scene or something like that, but I was thinking, oh my god, this video that I'm uploading to YouTube is longer than the like the extended version of The Lord of the Rings. All right, so that is that. Let's see. I'm looking at this piece right here. The background, okay, the background came out a lot lighter than what I was originally intending, just from the very nature of the vellum overlapping those objects back there. Okay, so it was much lighter than what I wanted. Okay, I wanted these things to be in the darkness. So that being said, being that it came out light, I just went with that, and I made things even lighter, okay? So that, from a visual standpoint and depth standpoint, I think these objects right here, stamped on the front and the back of the vellum, really stand out a lot more. It wasn't necessarily what I wanted, though, because I wanted it a scene to be much darker, a different scenario here. But I didn't get that, so I just tried to make the best of it by emphasizing depth here, okay? And some of the things that didn't show up, too much anymore were those eyeballs, and plus I got that kind of real kind of textural. I don't know if you guys could see that in the video, but there's these little dots in here that were from kind of clumped up, applications of that adhesive, because your sprays, your spray, it's glue, so sometimes it comes out in a little bit of globs, okay? Oh, and one of the things is too is I'm spraying that at nighttime, so when the can's like cold, and I'm spraying it outside, sometimes that happens a little bit more so. So you just kind of lighten it up in there a little bit more, to de-emphasize some of those darker little splotches like that. And I don't know, this is what I ended up with. A little bit of darker objects, so I went with, more perimeter things all the way around this like that. We need some bats or something like that flying in front of that moon or something like that. But anyway, there is our Creature of the Black Lagoon, maybe my first, kind of, Halloween-ish scene for the season coming up here. And I don't know, I usually do a couple more, before Halloween kind of rolls around. So anyway, and I wanted to use my my Creature of the Black Lagoon stamp, from Ken Brown. I have no idea where I got it from. I'm guessing, I think I was mentioning in another video, I think I got it from, I'm guessing Viva Las Vegas stamps or something like that. It had to have been a place that had some older stamps. And at one time he had a collection of like 5,000 stamps from some stamper that gave it to, him on consignment. And she had a bunch of those really old stamps from the 80s. And I don't know if they had 70s in there too, but it was a collector, that had a lot of different inventory and a lot of imagery that were already, like long since discontinued at that point in time when I bought them, which was in like 2008, I think it was. I'm trying to think, because I remember my son was being, in the video where I'm kind of walking around in the store. My wife is still holding my son, and the owner of that store was giving him some little toys or something like that. But yeah, so that at the time it was probably, it was almost a 20-year-old stamp, 20-year-old stamp at that time. So yeah, fun using these stamps out of my private collection. So Stampscapes stamps, my original kind of intention for them were to be, when I was working for a Stamp in the Hand doing nature designs, I figured they would be background stamps to kind of emphasize, to kind of stage stamps from other companies. So they can Stampscape stamps can be their own star of a scene or whatever, but they can be totally subservient to, other types of imagery out there. So instead of a nice relaxing type of, tropical evening or something like that, it could be, a horror scenario. All right. Okay, Paula, thanks for joining in for this stamping pajama party here. I don't know if anyone else is on, but if you are, thanks for joining in, checking it out. And again, try out some vellum. I think it'd be really fun. You have to do a little bit more thinking. It's like in that what was it? Like Star Trek or something like that. 3-dimensional chess. This is like 3-dimensional stamping, except this is 2-dimensional, but you have those 3 layers to work with. I've tried 2 layers of vellum before, which would open it up to 5 sides, but by the time you lay down another piece of vellum on here, it was too much. You couldn't see anything from that base layer at all. So I think unless there's other types of vellum out there that are more transparent, but or maybe the thinner varieties of them, but I don't think they would adhere very well because they would be so ripply, I think, from that adhesive on there. And by the time, like I said, I added another piece of vellum on top of it to just see how many layers I can go. That end result was like totally wavy with big air bubbles and pockets and stuff like that. So it seemed like any type of like tiny irregularity made like that second layer of vellum and adhesive on there just like get totally wonky, and it was all completely rippled and bubbled, so I don't know. I had that sitting around, but then I figured out a way to incorporate those kind of three-dimensional raised areas into the scene a little bit more by, I don't know, I just put like shadows underneath them or something like that. And it was a snow scene anyway, so I just figured it was like little raised bits of snow and whatnot, on the surface like that. So you just kind of, just kind of go with it. All right, so anyways, thanks again, everyone. Have a good evening, whatever time it is for you. Okay, it's almost 3 a.m. for us, so yeah. Logging off. Thanks again for joining in. Checking out the stream. Happy rest of evening, and don't have nightmares. All right, signing off, everyone. Thanks again.